at clean energy and energy efficiency and the technologies that go with that as an opportunity to create jobs now, as an opportunity to position the economy for long-term growth, as a way to improve the environment and to enhance national security. I think, again, as we think about this problem, we have to think about all those elements in that package. What I thought I'd do today is talk about three basic themes. The first is to talk about innovation and the role that innovation plays in this particular sector and how important that is for us achieving our energy and environmental goals. The second is just talk about money and jobs, because in the near term we're actually going to be evaluated on our ability to create jobs through the kind of programs that we've been driving under the Recovery Act. And then the third part is I'd talk a little bit about where we go from here, because as we've looked at it from the very beginning, the Recovery Act is a down payment on the nation's energy and environmental future, but it's only a down payment. And unless we get the roadmap right going forward, we will not have fully used the down payment that we've made. So if we think about innovation, we start from the premise that innovation is a core contributor to long-term economic growth and job creation. If you look at the difference between the U.S. and China at a simple level, China's going to see a lot of economic growth just as people go from agriculture into an urban setting and their economic productivity increases dramatically from doing that. We actually don't have that population growth, agriculture to urban luxury. We actually are going to grow our economy by innovating. And we have to keep that in mind. I mean, it's not something that's all that new. I mean, Robert Solow won the Nobel Prize around that theme, but it's one that sometimes we forget just how important innovation is to the job creation story. The president yesterday was out at Solyndra out in Fremont, California, a large solar manufacturing facility. You know, he reiterated the notion that the nation that leads in the clean energy economy is actually positioned to lead in the global economy over the long term, but it requires innovation in order actually to make that work. And if you think about those of you who've spent time in the energy sector, you realize that this has historically been one of the slowest sectors to innovate. Energy innovation tends to be measured in decades and sometimes in centuries, not in months and years that some other industries have shown, in part because the scale requirements of energy are so high, the system integration challenges are so large, and then there's this whole customer adoption issue that we actually have to keep in mind as we approach these new technologies. And so the opportunity that we have, and the challenge that we have, is how do we accelerate the rate of innovation in energy technologies? Because a decade from now, we're going to be judged on whether or not we've been able to change the rate of innovation in energy technology, whether a decade from now we are using energy and producing energy in fundamentally different ways at an order of magnitude more effectively than we do today. And so the investments that we made in things like RPE under the Recovery Act really are trying to accelerate that innovation agenda. And the partnership that the Department of Energy wants to have with the innovation community is how do we accelerate that rate of innovation by making it easier to scale, by addressing these system integration challenges, and by providing the platforms in which we can address some of the customer adoption challenges that these technologies can face. Second block is let's talk about jobs, because in the near term we're going to be evaluated on job creation. The Department of Energy, as many of you know, received $36.7 billion of appropriations under the Recovery Act. That's intended with a variety of tax credits and other things to support $100 billion in clean energy projects across the country. The good news is that we are just about done in the process of moving those funds out the door. We've actually selected recipients for $32 and a bit billion of our $32.7 billion of contract and grant authority. Except for Scott's invitation, my popularity continues to go down. Many fewer people want to talk to me today, since most of the money has actually been allotted out in the marketplace. So I appreciate the continuing interest of folks like Scott. And of that, we've now obligated more than $28 billion of that. So that means that the recipients of those have the obligations and are actually starting work on the projects. And then we end up reimbursing those recipients after they've spent the money and after they've reached certain project milestones. And so our reimbursements now are a little bit over $4 billion. And the good part about that is that we're seeing the accelerating rate of reimbursements as we work through this process. This is, for those of you who count such things, the 465th day since the passage of the Recovery Act. It's something that we end up tracking largely around the theme of accountability, because time is actually not our friend. In this process, we actually have to make sure that all the money that moves out the door is spent wisely and spent well and moves quickly into job creation. We started, I think, in the first quarter of reporting, we had about 6,000 jobs, and then it moved to 16,000. We now have a little bit over 23,000 jobs, all reported into federalreporting.gov, and about double that if you actually take a look at the subcontractors who are actually working on the projects that we've funded. And we expect to see an accelerating rate of job creation as we go into the next 2 quarters. Because if you go back to the original structure of the Recovery Act, the first block was about tax credits to 90% of Americans. The second block was about transfer payments to the states to make sure that the core social service safety net remained in place, and we didn't all of a sudden have a lot of layoffs just because the states and localities couldn't continue providing those kind of services. And then this third block really is where the Department of Energy is focused. It's around infrastructure on the one hand and around innovation on the other hand. It's around laying the foundation for long-term economic growth and job creation in the country, and we're really excited about where we are in that phase. You know, we set out a set of very specific goals at the beginning of this. The President committed to doubling renewable generation capacity in the United States in his first 4 years of office, and renewable generation capacity increased by almost 40% just last year. So we're well on our way to doubling not only renewable generation, but also renewable and clean energy manufacturing in this country. Because one of the things that we clearly have observed is that when we can combine innovation and manufacturing and appropriate demand-side incentives in local markets, it's in those areas where the United States has the ability to create good, high-quality jobs that last for the long term. And we can drive that innovation through manufacturing and into the end-use markets. So doubling manufacturing, doubling renewable generation. We're trying to drive a significant restructuring in the transportation system. We're running a competition between and among the biofuels, natural gas, hydrogen, transportation electrification, and improvements to the core internal combustion engine through a separate program, the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Loan Program. Nissan just broke ground yesterday on their Leaf facility in Smyrna, Tennessee. A couple of important themes as you think about that. One is that Nissan had the choice of anywhere in the world to build that factory. We could easily have been importing one of the most competitive cars in the world into the U.S. Instead, we have an incentive system now in the United States that makes it attractive for a major global manufacturer to put their best products into the U.S. market and manufacture them here. We're doing the same thing. You see what Tesla did with Toyota and NUMMI and the plant out in California, the same thing in Delaware with Fisker, and you see